Morning. Appreciate everybody getting on this morning. I appreciate seeing a lot of you guys on screen today. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Excited to get this call started today. So I appreciate you guys. I see you, Jared. I see that ugly Christmas sweater. Just so you guys know, we're having a little ugly Christmas sweater or holiday stuff going on. This is the one that I wore today. Gains. Just check them out. So thanks to Granddad, my wife's father sent my brother-in-law and myself the same ugly Christmas sweater. So happy Friday. So this is Klear Channel. For you guys that haven't been on before, I see a couple of faces, familiar and some unfamiliar faces. So this is my only ask. I see you, Jake. I see you in the office here. There's a couple new staff we have. I want you to nudge them to the right and have them pull out their cell phone. Type in YouTube. I'm waiting. Pull out your cell phone. I know you guys have it. Go to YouTube, and I want you to subscribe. Klear Channel, Klear Channel. And really, the reason I want you to subscribe is the feedback I've gotten from some people in our organization, and really people outside of our organization, is that this channel has really helped them in their life. Help them be better people, help them learn great things from great people in general, and just level up. So I appreciate you guys jumping on today. We got a very special guest today, a very good friend of mine, Matt Osborne. So Matt, welcome to the call this morning. I'm going to pin our videos, and we are going to just kind of get to know each other, and so the organization and people that are on today can get to know you. So Merry Christmas, buddy.
Merry Christmas.
So tell us, so some people may know a bit about your background, your career path, a little bit about home life. Do you mind kind of giving a kind of perspective and view of Matt Osborne before Miami of Ohio, and then after Miami of Ohio? And by the way, and we'll ask about some of your college roommates. That was a question I had on top of my head. So if you can share a little bit about childhood and grown up.
All right. So, well, first of all, thanks for having me on. One of the things that I've grown to love, over the last 20 years is being able to just hopefully coach, teach, and provide for people, and especially people that have been in the position that I was in. So it's pretty cool to be on here. My background is pretty plain. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, and then, when I travel around the country, I ask people, who's been to Ohio? I was in Boston this week for 3 days. And I was in a room full of people, and I said, hey, who's been to Ohio on purpose? And most people are like, hands go up, and I go on purpose, and their hands go down because they're like, does the interstate count? And I'm like, no. And so I grew up in Northeast Ohio, and I would say it was a great place to grow up. There wasn't a lot of distractions other than your Cleveland Browns, your Ohio State, and your Cleveland Indians, and your Cleveland Cavs. Other than sports, there wasn't much. I can say it wasn't incredibly sophisticated. It was just, hey, people go to work, they come home, and they try their best to take care of their families. And if you were fortunate enough that you got a chance to go to college. And so I went to school at Miami in Oxford, Ohio. And that's where things really changed for me. I started meeting some incredible people across the country that had grown up differently from me, maybe more of a privileged life, and maybe their parents had advanced degrees, and a lot of their parents were entrepreneurial and ran their own companies, and it was a little foreign to me, but I got really interested in it, and I was like, well, wow, what a cool way to grow up. And I heard where they were vacationing and things, and there were places that I'd never heard of, but they sounded really cool. And it kind of opened my world a little bit, and opened my world to, I guess, possibility, what could be out there. And within And, and I got pretty serious with school my senior year, and had a bunch of job offers before I graduated. And I took the most corporate job you could possibly take. And um, it was a job with a huge corporation based out of Pittsburgh, but they're global. And I was selling paint and chemicals to GM, Ford, and Chrysler. But more than anything, I was doing like account management. And I worked there for only about 18 months. The first 6 months, they had me working in a lab because they wanted to teach me the chemistry because I didn't understand any of it. And then they moved me to Troy, Michigan, of all places. And then I would service these huge factories. And one of the things that struck me within the first 6 weeks of working there, when I got into the real corporate position, was I asked the question, what do I have to do to move up? What do I have to do to make more money? Which I thought those were decent questions to ask.
Yeah,
but my manager was like, what? And I could tell the way he answered me, he wasn't really happy with me asking the question. So I found a new way to ask the question 2 weeks later to him, and then gave me kind of the same response. And 2 weeks later, and then I finally realized that what I essentially was asking was, how do I take his job? And at that moment, I was kind of like, wow, I guess people hang on with a lot of, in a lot of companies, you can't move up unless somebody quits or dies or retires or gets fired. And it didn't seem really cool to me. And the pay was also based on how long you had worked there. And I was the new guy, so I was getting paid the least.
Right.
So I can tell you, like, last 6 months I was there, I took in all the experience that I could take from that company, and it did help me out quite a bit. But it got me really interested in going into business for myself and being my own boss, and not being limited by my experience, but being limited by how hard I was willing to work. And fortunately enough, I decided to take a major leap of faith and move to Atlanta, Georgia, to be with some of my fraternity brothers. And that's when I just, started learning sales in the most direct way, talking to people face to face, taking a lot of rejection. And I'm really grateful that I took that leap, but it was so foreign to me, but it turned out really well.
That's awesome. And is it true that you were hanging out at the pool with some friends, and a girl that you were just kind of hanging with, or a group of people hanging with, they said, hey, you're looking for, so you're talking about what job you were looking for, commission sales, you wanted unlimited growth, you wanted to advance. And this random person who had interviewed with John Wiggins, and it didn't work out for her, but said, hey, I met somebody that you may want to meet, and here's his business card. Is that how you came into our business?
It was
Something
almost
like
dead
that?
on. Yeah, she had actually worked for John for about 3 months, had an incredible experience. And for for a variety of reasons, she wasn't working there anymore, but she had learned so much. She loved working there so much that she says, you need to go interview with this company, because the way you're talking about what you're looking for, you might be a really good fit. And so I walk in, and I guess the rest is history.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so tell me about your early years. And by the way, college roommate, before I jump into, kind of career, college roommate, is it true that Nick Lachey was one of your fraternity brothers?
He was one of my fraternity brothers. Yeah. And Nick, Nick, he came from
Nick, the 98 degrees, or what?
Yeah.
Is that that guy, right?
Yeah, that's him, man. He surprised us all. He had a great voice, but he surprised all of us, and went on to do some incredible things in this world. That's for sure.
Okay, cool. I somebody said that to me once, and I'm like, really? Okay. I didn't know that was true. So early years in sales, obviously a lot of people are young in our organization, and just getting into sales for the first time. Any tips for them? Any things you know now, 20 years later, you have a massive business that you've built over the years, and you start off in sales yourself. What would you tell yourself in a sales capacity if you would start over?
If I could start over, I think the main thing I would do is I think most people that start with sales have a pretty healthy ego. Meaning they probably have a gift for gab. They can talk to people. They may feel comfortable with it. And they have a pretty top-notch work ethic. And a part of that ego is they really truly believe if I'm trained properly, if I'm set on the right course, I can do really, really well. And I think take that ego, and I love that healthy ego, and just remind yourself that the customers that you interact with typically treat you the way they feel about their current situation and don't take it personally. And that was one of the hardest things. But my parents always taught me, don't talk to strangers. And next thing you know, I'm set down a career path where I'm talking to strangers all the time. And I must have played small ball growing up my whole life, because I was really, I resisted rejection. I didn't like it too much. I almost sought out situations where I couldn't get rejected, which, as you know, that doesn't work in sales. That doesn't really work in life in general. So that was one of the skills that I tried to master early, but it took me about 6 months, Ken. I mean, 6 months to say that customer right there, I treated them with respect. I was polite. I was kind to them. I was really professional, and they gave me a response that hurt my feelings, or gave me a response that made me recoil a little bit. And I had to tell myself, don't take it personally. I have no idea what these people are going through. And I wasn't doing anything wrong, and I wasn't being aggressive. I was just being me, and I was being nice. And once I started holding my interactions with customers as just professional interactions, that sometimes people say yes, sometimes people say no, and sometimes people are rude. Once I started holding it like that, rather than taking everything personally, it freed up a lot of emotion just to go work harder, even to have a better energy in front of customers. And I wish I would have known that on day one, but I guess that experience you can't have until you've gone through all of that, holding rejection too close to you.
Yeah, it's like relationships, right? You can't prepare someone to go through the breakup, or things that don't go your way. You have to experience, and then when you experience the really tough time, you appreciate when you have something incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing. One of the things that we do a lot here in our office is the DISC profile. The D, the I, the S, and the C. I've noticed in our business, for whatever reason, a lot of people that are very I dominated, meaning outgoing and in front of people, or maybe D, strong, direct, or in our industry. But I believe your profile is a little different. And I think were you at that one where we kind of broke people up on what profile they were? And I think you were often a profile that wasn't very sales popular. What's your DISC profile?
Well, yes, I was at that meeting, and I think out of 100 people, I think 3 people sat at the table, and I was like, "This is embarrassing. Did I do something wrong on this test?" I felt, I was like, "Yikes." My profile is a C, and yes, the whole room was pretty much an I or a D. And something I find interesting, Ken, is I was a CS. And I've taken that test, let's say over the last 10 years, maybe 4 times. And thank goodness I've grown a little bit, right? But you don't stay stagnant. I mean, I was a CS, and now the last time I took it, which was maybe a year and a half ago, I'm a CD. Like it's almost indistinguishable. It's like right there on the border. So yeah, it's interesting. Like I shouldn't have been a shoe-in to do well with sales, or maybe even leading people. And I definitely was an outlier within the group of managers.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? So with that being said, you've had to work on yourself and grow through things. And I'm sure that was challenging at times if it's not your natural, personality type. Do you remember any of the big challenges along the way and your own growth? And how did you handle that, the mentality of it? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think the main thing, and everybody's different, right? But I've learned over the years how important it is to make mistakes. Not to necessarily repeat them, but to make mistakes and be okay not being right. And I don't know if that's how I grew up, but I find even to this day, when I try to be right, or I try to not make a mistake, I miss out on an opportunity to learn and to grow. And I guess that even goes back to when I was in the field. There were some times it was like 50-50 if the customer was going to say yes and enjoy the service that I was able to provide them, or no, and I'd have to move on. And my personality then was, well, I don't know if I'm going to go for the close, because there's a possibility they might say no, and that might mean that I'm not right or I've made a mistake, which is a natural way of looking at things, but it's totally irrational. It doesn't help you grow. So main thing that, or one of the things that I've worked on over the years is I don't have to be right. That's for sure, because I'm not the majority of the time. And it's okay to make mistakes, because mistakes are there for growth. And as long as you can learn from them. So that's kind of the stuff that some of the things that I've seen. I haven't just struggled with those, but I think most people struggle with that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's interesting because obviously we've known each other now for a very long time, and I've seen your career take off. And for anyone that's listening today, you've had a major impact on me. And just, I don't know if you remember. Do you remember the very first time we hung out? Probably don't. Okay.
I'm trying to think. Was it? I would assume it was in Philadelphia.
Philly, Jersey. Yep. So Matt ran an office in Philadelphia. Michael, obviously, who hired me out of college and gave me a chance to start my career, ran an office in Jersey. You'd come over to do a team night or an office night with us. And I rode with you in your car to team night to get to know you. And we had like a BMW 750i or something back then, 745, I forget. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, all right, I like this whole management idea, this whole idea growing up in it. But one of the things to say is in growing in the business, 20 years of experience, you've seen people have done really, really well. And you've seen people that, maybe haven't done as well. If you were to give that person who, again, fell into the business in the last 30 days or last 60 days, kind of where we are now with the clients we have now, the opportunities after the pandemic, I know the calls we're on where there's more clients asking for our services than ever, which is nuts. What leadership wise, any books, any ideas around leadership that you would tips that you would give these guys if they want to advance and manage and run offices?
Oh, geez, Ken. That's a lot. Here's what I would say, and I'll expand on it in a second. I would say two things: treat yourself well and treat others well. I find that most competitive people are ultra critical of themselves. Can you all agree? Like ultra critical. It's that internal talk that we have sometimes slows us down. It's never, we almost search for perfection rather than progress. We search to be right rather than grow. We set goals to get rather than set goals to grow. And if you've been working with Ken, for the, let's say, 30 days or less or 60 days or less, you're probably where you should be. You're probably where you should be. If things make you a little anxious or if things make you uncomfortable, usually I find that's because you haven't experienced it. And the more you experience things, the more you become familiar with it, and you can learn ways to either steamroll over those perceived issues, or you can quickly move around those perceived roadblocks, right? So I'd be kind to yourself. Don't be overly critical. Now, usually I have to say at this point, that doesn't mean don't have this mentality of you're going to go give your best, and anything less than the best is unacceptable. I think that is a great mentality to have. But give yourself a break. You're not supposed to master all these skills that you just learned yesterday. These new experiences that you're going to have, it's not expected that you're going to know how to meander through it and to help other people. There's zero expectation of that. Now, the expectation is for you to work relentlessly to get better, work relentlessly at leveling up yourself so you can be a great example for others. That is the expectation, but it's to be perfect, never. And I see a lot of people do that. And what it allows is self-doubt to creep in on any task that you're trying to learn. That is something that I've seen over the years. The best people have this incredible vision of what they'd like to have happen and outcomes, and they're incredibly competitive. But yet at the same time, they know this is a process. They don't play the short game; they play the long game, and but they got to kick some ass during the short game. That's for sure. And at the same time, be kind to other people. I think it's real easy to treat people the way we want to be treated, and without recognizing that everybody's different, and maybe we should treat people how they want to be treated, and just be kind with them. I like setting boundaries around, with my conversations. I like setting boundaries about how we interact. I like to play games. I like to know the rules of the games. I don't like to break those rules. And I find that when people know what the rules are, they know how our interactions are going to take place, what the expectations are. They typically perform really well, and it works out. All of a sudden, people start accusing you of being a great leader of people and a great developer of people, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. So, treat yourself well and treat others well.
For anyone that listens, I try to share with them that I think the most important conversation is the one you have with yourself. And if that's a good one, you start there, the core of who you are and your heart and your mind, you're going to be able to put good out and good energy, and good will come your way. Obviously, you've had an incredible career. I know you've moved around to different cities. You're currently living in Nashville. And this is your office in Nashville. I know you don't run a day-to-day office anymore, but you run a consulting business out of the house and out of is that your office there?
This is my home office. Yep.
Awesome. So along the way, you've had a chance to meet some people outside of our industry, and just incredible people in general. Anyone that you've met that these people in our org or in our business may know that has made an impact on you?
Oh gosh.
And by the way, were you there? You were quite sorry when you were there. And Michael's bachelor party when we ran into Fergie. Do you remember that in Vegas?
I may have been having too much fun to remember that.
Sorry. So just to kind of get you started. But,
the people that I'm most, I guess, would be enamored with, or the great people that I've met, and this, no one knows them, but there are some incredible men and women in my neighborhood that I've seen strike an incredible balance of being a great father and being a great businessman, and being a great member of their community. And it wasn't like that in their 20s. I didn't know them in their 20s. I didn't know them in their 30s, and I didn't know them in their 40s. But there's some incredible people that I've met, over the last 3 years, just here locally, that I've seen and I've asked them questions, what were your 20s like? And they were like, what were my 20s like? I was working. I was trying to get my career off the ground. And what about your 30s? Same thing. What about your 40s? Same thing. And now I meet them and I see almost a finished product, and they would say they're not a finished product, but they're as far as long as I think they could be, but they're incredible members of the community. At any chance, they're helping out with charities and inviting me along and to, hey, why don't you and Julia come and do this with us? There's and they seem to always find time to get the job done personally, as well as take care of their career and their businesses. And it's inspiring to me to see that I have a lot of work to do, and a lot of, if I want to be where they are, I gotta keep focusing on the day to day so I can, get to their level eventually.
Awesome. And I know we got just 2 minutes left here. So do you mind sharing? So what does life look like now for Matt? What do you do day to day? What does the new year look like for you? People are obviously this time of year thinking around goals, things to accomplish. Now you have a huge organization. What are some of your goals now?
Well, I think, my day to day is I started doing this more intentionally probably about 5 years ago, where I've identified priorities in my life. And then I just I make deposits to those priorities daily. So majority of my day is just trying to spend as much time on the priorities of my life as I possibly can. And I can tell you, when I'm in work mode, which is 5-6 days a week, the major priority, the bucket that gets most of my time, effort, and energy is business. But I'm a planner, I'm a scheduler. So there's things that happen, before this phone call that I did a lot of work putting in different deposits. So that's kind of my day to day. It's fun because I try to use my time and put it in places that are not, that are all priorities and not being wasted as much as possible. This time of year is probably my busiest time of year, like most of you. You have these personal pulls, and then you got these professional pulls. I've been on the road for the last 3 weeks, visited a bunch of offices. I was in Boston and Rhode Island and Cleveland, and even in Scottsdale this past week. I have family coming in, and I still have work to do next week, which is exciting. I have my mom and my sister coming in. And I can tell you, every single week going into January, or from January through the first, I think, week of February, I'm on the road for at least a few days. Now, I do that intentionally because I want to start setting the pace with my people, making sure their mindset is where I think they want it to be. And the only way I can help them get there is if my mindset is, let's go. Work as hard as you can when the world kind of tells you this is the time to chill. And so that's kind of like my day to day. And that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the next like 6 weeks where I get to connect with more people face to face and go to their offices and take them to lunch, take them to dinner, and find out what their goals are and help focus them on the long play, while at the same time focusing on the 24-hour mindset of let's go crush it these next 24 hours. And I can help you structure your day to go do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Matt. I really appreciate you jumping on this morning. I know we have a lot of people from across the country here. I'm going to unpin our videos so I can see everybody. But if everyone can take your computers or your phones or whatever off of mute for a second, say thank you to Matt. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
All right,
Thanks,
Matt.
Matt.
All right,
Thanks,
Matt.
Matt.
Well, thanks again for jumping on this morning, Matt. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Obviously, enjoy the holiday season, and we'll talk to you soon, bud. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.